REI Co-op presents a mini mindfulness break. Take a deep breath in, picture yourself on a mountain. As you hold your breath, look down at your skis, freshly waxed thanks to your REI membership, carving through powder like a knife to warm butter. Breathe out slowly, let the air leave your lungs, like you'd leave your local co-op with all the gear, clothing, classes, and advice you could hope for. Make time to opt outside. REI.com.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
That was probably the most interesting story in terms of him, the father, trying to kind of say, hey kid, this is the best you're going to have, and at least I have this little bit of glory that I can hold on to.
Giving him his ring at the end,
yeah.
And say, like, you won in my eyes. Like, it's cheesy stuff, but it really, it really gets me.
I loved also, like, the people in the town that had the rings as well. Yeah. It's like literally the best thing they'll ever do in their lives can happen between the ages of 15 and 18.
Yeah, it's almost like a weird Village of the Damned thing.
Yeah.
Every now and then you notice a ring on somebody else, and it's like, you're all still here.
Like the sheriff had it kind of flashed up, and the coach looked at it, and it's like, they're just looking at this big, ugly looking rings. Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Today we are joined by Amelie.
Hello.
Matthew.
Hello.
I don't know why I call you Matthew. And Helen.
Hello.
So full.
And we are going to be talking about Friday Night Lights, the movie, not the TV show.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Joining us today we have Matt and Amelie. If you would like to say hello to our listeners and tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hello. I co-host a podcast called Spocklight with two friends, Liam and Paul. It's a Star Trek podcast. We know there's many of them out there. And our whole idea with it was to tackle it from a newcomer's point of view, so from a very much a non-Trekkie perspective. Paul's very knowledgeable about the films and a lot of the series, but me, I had only seen the JJ films and Rafa Khan, basically. So it was a fresh franchise to dive
So you hadn't
into.
even watched any of The Next Generation?
No, nothing at all. And that comes up quite a lot of how just it was always there in our world, like on Channel 4 and on BBC 2, whatever it was, but never seen any of it. And so it was a big franchise to dive into in a kind of book club format where you can, it's safe for you to come in and follow along and watch along if you are also new. And then funnily enough, when we started, all this new Star Trek content has started to appear. So it's a really exciting time.
Amelie, who are you?
So I'm a quarter of Theatre Attractions podcast. So we review everything we love and hate about erotic thrillers, especially the 90s. So we've dug quite in depth into the 90s films, and we are reviewing as well the noughties, the 80s. And we've reached the 50th episode now. Yeah. So I never suspected that there were as many erotic thrillers around, but it's quite exciting.
Do you know why it kind of died down after the 90s?
It didn't die down after the 90s. There were still, in the noughties, you had a few, but I guess... Maybe I think it's the arrival of porn, very easily accessible on the internet.
Sure.
So because before people were just looking for it for something titillating, you would watch that at night on TV, but afterwards people could just access anything, any content and any video, and then so for them it's not that thrilling anymore. So they try to bring it back sometimes from time to time, but I'm not sure it's working. I think 50 Shades of Grey is one of example, but yeah.
So I noticed your accent is French.
It is French, indeed, yes.
But traditionally French films are a bit more liberal
Yes,
than
exactly.
the ones in Anglophone languages.
Yeah.
Did the erotic thriller kind of hit in the same way in France as it did in the UK and the States?
Yeah, it was very successful.
Okay.
And I guess that's because, as you said, we're a bit more liberal.
Sure.
So my parents were not as restrictive in what I could watch. So I would watch, when I was 12 or 14, I would watch Basic Instinct with them. And I was not embarrassed or anything. Nowadays, I guess when I go back home and I watch films, where there are some really
Just on in
sexy...
the afternoon over there. Like, hey.
No, but when there was really sexy scenes, and because I've been living in the UK for 12 years, and all my friends were like, "What? You watch that kind of films with your parents? Are you not embarrassed?" So now I'm a bit more like, "Ooh, this is a bit awkward." But yeah, before then, it was not And I remember watching with my parents the Hen That Rocked the Cradle, for example, and being so scared afterwards. And we were like looking across the window, thinking, "Oh God, is there like a creepy woman around or something?" But yeah, we just loved those films, and they were very popular in France.
Nice. So we're here today to talk about Friday Night Lights, which is your choice, Matt.
Yes.
So can you tell us, first of all, why you chose it? And secondly, the synopsis in 1 minute or less.
Yeah, well, I've been a big fan of this film since I first saw it. I don't think I saw it on its original cinema release. It must have been a DVD. But I'm a big fan of kind of sports movies that I know very little about with the sports. And in this case, this is a drama first and foremost and a football film second. But I feel like if you're a big fan of American football, you are still going to get your fix. There's a lot of high-intensity action of the game in here as well. But films like, the original Rocky and The Wrestler especially are kind of very human dramas set around a sport, often charting like an arc and an evolution of its main character and how the sport has defined them and how they are moving forward with their lives through it. And this film is very much focused on a sort of small town mentality, and it highlights the kind of almost strange subculture that we maybe don't see here in the UK of just how big these high school football games are to these people in these towns. And I just love the whole shooting style, the ensemble performances, the way it's edited, the score by Explosions in the Sky, a really great kind of prog rock band, and the fact that it inspired and spun off into the TV series of the same name, which is also really excellent.
So the synopsis.
Synopsis, it's a sports drama based on this book called Friday Night Lights, A Town, a Team, and a Dream, about the 1988 Permian High School Panthers football team and sort of the personal demons affecting a handful of players as they battle to reach the state championships under the guidance of coach Gary Gaines, Mr. Billy Bob Thornton himself.
Nice. So, Helen, tell us your thoughts.
So I had not seen this. I think I was kind of vaguely aware of it because it was one of the ones that Billy Bob Thornton did before he kind of went a bit crazy.
Right.
And kind of doesn't really make films anymore. I think what you've already said, I think the key about this film is perhaps if you have kind of an interest in American football, which I don't particularly myself. But I'm not a fan of sports films. Mentioned The Wrestler, I'm a big fan of that, and films like The Fighter as well. I really like the way this was filmed, and the soundtrack really added quite a lot to it. But I think I was kind of expecting more of a sort of story with it being kind of based on a true story, because it's sort of a story of a team that could have been great, but they kind of weren't. But then after that, they were really great.
Isn't that a story in itself, though?
I don't know. I don't think any of the individual characters really were fleshed out that well, which now knowing there's a TV series about it would kind of make sense that they've got more scope to kind of build them up, and that in trying to sort of try and tell the story of all of these characters in the one film, they kind of didn't really tell anyone particularly well.
Well, Amelie's nodding along with you. What are your thoughts,
Yeah,
Amelie?
I completely agree with you. I think that my issue is that American football, I'm already not interested in it. I don't really get it. And it's something, they stop and start. And I've never really enjoyed the films about them. So I think I had seen Any Given Sunday. But because I do love Oliver Stone, I love his style. So I think it's a bit more gripping. I did enjoy the kind of documentary and grainy aesthetics of the film and the score. But I thought that, as you said, they're not really fleshed out. And they're a bit ordinary. It's kind of a story I've seen so many times as well, with the dads being so like on their backs all the time and being abusive, and I just didn't think it was that original, and it didn't grab me at all. And then when I watched the sports, there are so many lengthy passages of the matches in themselves, and I couldn't get into it. But what I liked, can we talk about the end or not?
You can talk about the end. You can spoil away.
Okay, so I thought, I was going, okay, and then at the end, they're going to win the match and it's going to be, amazing. And actually, I like that they lost the match because it was a bit like, okay, well, that's not the type of story that I was expecting. And it was a bit, demoralizing to see that they ended up being just very ordinary people and normal jobs. And I think there's only one that carried on going to college and having a...
pretty much. It's interesting...
Well, carried on playing sports through college.
Yeah, exactly.
A few of them went to college, but were just like smart enough to
get a bursary for the sports.
It's interesting you say. I'd love to hear about the story of how the book came about, because it on paper it is a very ordinary kind of school year, like the people involved, and I kind of like how they lean into that, and how you have the classic thing of at the end of the film it comes up with the subtitles of what they went on to do, and it's just very normal stuff, and it's like this was just a very heightened time in their lives. And I think for me, it's the look at kind of small town pressure, and it's this kind of cyclical nature of all the oppressive adults there. Either it's the ones who are on the coach's back about, you got to win. It's all very passive aggressive, like we're in your corner, but if you lose, you're out. Were
they even passive aggressive? Some of those guys were straight out.
It's like he's gotta go.
Yeah.
Just sticking signs on their lawn. Yeah, and all the
I saw that sign thing. Sorry, that was like a proper Get out
of town.
Yeah. Like you can tell they take it really seriously. And I think that's the problem where you have all these people who are a lot of the characters' dads and things like
Lucas, the actor, is that right? Yeah. The one that is on the hood of the bonnet of the car and is alcoholic.
It's like, he's someone who has won it before, and I think it shines a light on this kind of small town pressure of people who were once the hot shit in town who couldn't escape where they are, and they're still there, and they're living vicariously through their kids and really putting the pressure on. And in my head, this was very much a film that was about the people, and I'd forgotten how much actual football there was. So sorry for chucking on the very football. But I think, like you say, about having to get through kind of like a season in a movie and not a show, so kind of a school year season of football. I think the editing in this film is really well done for kind of getting through the games, and just the way the games themselves are shot and put together are really, really dynamic. And it's where the focus is really cool, and I think it does pull out. It knows which characters to focus on, which ones to pull out, and I think just seeing their bond as it goes along, and you realize like a lot of them know to begin with, like this isn't for them, it's going to be for them moving forward and things, and then just Boobie Miles, man, he just breaks my heart, and that scene when he's in the car with his uncle and he realizes he's been holding it in front of his teammates, but he realizes he can't do anything else, and his dreams have been taken away, and just the amount of denial he's in. Like I was watching like with my housemate, and she was going like, why doesn't his uncle just step in and get the MRI done sooner? And it's like just this folly of blind confidence and not wanting to accept the fact that maybe you've screwed yourself.
Yeah.
So I don't want to have to redo the same bits. So I mean, I really like this film. I don't know why I hadn't seen it, and I knew about the TV show after it finished, but it's one of those things where a TV show has got so many episodes behind it, and not being particularly interested in the subject matter, I just thought I wasn't going to even start looking into it. I think if I was to play a sport in America, if I had played a sport in America at school, it would have been American football. This is what I understand the most, with baseball being the least one. What I understand the least, but I'd still. That classification of sports films, I find it hard because there always is a character piece behind it. I've never seen a film which is just like sport that is so like alienating. And in this, I really found like Boobie Miles' story, the heartbreaking. Although you just like, dude,
it's his own fault though. His ego.
Well, it's his ego. It's the coach. You had the storyline of, I don't know if it's Perryman. No, Perryman's the name of the team, isn't it? The father who's abusive, but ultimately just wanting his kids kind of at least experience the same kind of joy that he had, even though he knows it's fleeting. Mm-hmm. You got the kid who's got kind of, you don't get the story too much about his mother who's ill, and that's why he's kind of holding back. And then you have the kind of younger guys who are given their chance to shine. So I thought there's kind of aspects, and also just like you say, I don't think it's something we can understand in the UK about how big these college and high school sports are to them. And some of these college and high school teams earn so much money, like more than like sub-level Premiership football teams, more than rugby teams, Premiership rugby teams do here. It's crazy that they had 28,000 people.
Yeah, it's so weird.
My biggest rugby team close to me is Sale Sharks, and they're lucky if they get 10,000 people. And they have people that go to England and play for England.
Yeah,
and it's literally that insane at how big a scale it is. So I like to get. I quite enjoy getting inside of that thing.
Yeah, I wonder if it's a case of people are excited to see who could be the next big thing, because I guess it's very much a scouting thing for high school teams and they're getting on the ground level and just the grassroots pride in where you're from. When it's in a state like Texas, I imagine there's so many teams or so many leagues. That Boobie Miles story is quite sad, but also ordinary at the same time. You kind of saw what he set up with the fact he had like 10 college sponsorship offers, and you knew from that point it's like that's not going to go well for him.
Yeah, but you see so many stories like that over. I loved actually. I'm not really into sports films normally, but like Tony Harding. Tonya. When she realizes that she completely screwed her career up for what she's done to the other skater,
Nancy Kerrigan.
Nancy Kerrigan, and when she goes, to the trial, and she finds out that she's banned from skating, and she's like, "But I can't do anything else. I can't," and that kind of story where they just can't carry on and they have nothing else to do. And it's like, I've seen it already. For me, it was not that original, but I can understand that you're really into it.
It's interesting. Like, this really does lean into a lot of the sports movie cliches, which I kind of appreciate. It's like, if you want that, it's here. But also, I think what the docu style gives you, and especially the score, it's like real kind of just a I don't know. It's like just a place in time. Because it is an 80s set movie made in 2004, and it does feel period in many ways. Like there's a lot of mullets going on, but it feels
isn't that just the South?
But
I think in like picking out that small town Southern American way of life, like the way the montages of everyone sticking up signs saying they're closed to see the game. You really feel like the whole town. It's a weird place where it's Odessa, I believe, and it feels like it's totally desolate, but also everyone there will come to the game, and you can understand why they have such a love for their team, because
there's nothing else out there.
There's nothing else. But also, do you find that it's a bit sad that the female characters
don't do much?
Yeah, there's not much at all for them.
Even Connie Britton.
Yeah, even cheerleading. That's it. No, but otherwise, it doesn't focus at all on women. I was thinking of the ratio. It's not passing the test. The Bechdel. It's really focused on men. And I would have liked if there was even Connie Britton, if she was a stronger character.
Maybe there's one of the kids whose main story was much more connected with somebody. So has no one seen the TV series?
No,
not at all.
So the series is genuinely amazing. Like I maybe like the series more than the film. So the series is set in present day. It starts in 2006, I think the show started. So, but there's a lot of comparable sort of characters. So like the Boobie Miles type characters, this guy Jason Street, who in the pilot episode gets paralyzed, and his journey throughout the show is kind of, what does he do now that he can't even walk? And there's another character, Saracen, who has like the sick relative, and Tim Riggins, which was Taylor Kitsch in his kind of breakout role. He's kind of the guy here who has the abusive dad. And so there's a few kind of comparables, but it definitely expands the cast. There are a lot more female characters, thankfully. And over the course of, it's 5 seasons long, you've got Kyle Chandler as the coach here, and he's just so great. And Connie Britton returns as Coach's wife. She gets a much bigger character here, and given the time it has to expand, it feels a lot more well-rounded. Like the first season is kind of what the film does, like a season leading up to state, and then there's various other seasons, different teams as it goes on. But it's a really, really great show, and it carries over a few of the Explosions in the Sky score and songs as well.
But I mean, the TV show compared to this, would you recommend people just go straight to the TV show, or would you say watch the film, and then if you like that, then there's more? I
mean, I'd say you don't need to see the film at all, because the film is telling a true story of a time, and the series is completely fictional. You can go straight to the series, and I'd almost recommend it and see. And if you like the series, go back to the film, because I think if you see the film and you don't like the film, you may not go to the series. You may not be like that. And Liam, co-host of the show of Spocklight, his other half was just completely against watching the show for many of these reasons. Like she had no interest in the sports or anything. And then he finally got her to watch, and then she was hooked. And I was like, good, getting through the whole thing. And it is that kind of show. It's the last kind of, for me, great sort of network show. You know, we're talking like 22-episode seasons. I think it drops to about 13 episodes.
That just kind of breaks my heart. No, but just gives me a heavy heart. I just think, 5 episodes, 5 seasons, 22. I'm just like 100 episodes.
Don't have the time.
No. Well, the season 2 was the series that happened during the writers' strike in 2007 and 8. So that's abridged. And what they actually did, so season 2 of the show kind of does some really weird storyline choices. But then the writers' strike happened. And when it came back for series 3, rather than pick up, they just acted as if the remaining episodes of season 2 that don't exist had happened, and it carries on from a certain point onwards, and it resets itself really well. And then seasons 4 and 5 are on a different network, and they're only 13 episodes each, I think. But the whole thing is great. But the film's definitely sets a precedent for it, because Peter Berg, director, he's involved in both as well.
Well, Peter Berg, this is before he started working with Mark Wahlberg.
Yes.
Almost like exclusively.
I think he'd only done
Yeah.
Very Bad Things and one other thing before this.
I was going to say after Last Seduction. I always think of him as the fall guy in Last Seduction.
Is he acting in that?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's the guy, that she tries to enroll.
So Last Seduction with Linda Fiorentina?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Is he the guy that's...
the fall guy. You know
right.
that? Yeah. So.
Well, we have a connection. There you go.
I never knew that.
Exactly.
But sports films... Okay, Helen, sports films. How do they generally feature for you? And are there films where you generally hate the sport but you like the film?
So definitely for that one. So I hate boxing, but Raging Bull is one of my favourites and has been for a while. I do like sports films. Obviously, Cool Runnings is up there as being awesome. And we've mentioned The Fighter and The Wrestler. And I did really enjoy I, Tonya as well. That was a good one. But American football, I have seen Any Given Sunday, but I really can't remember that much about it. It doesn't really do much for me.
Have you seen Varsity Blues?
No. I've seen Jerry Maguire, but there's not really much sport in
that's
that.
definitely... I wouldn't class that really as a sports film at all.
But there is sport in it.
Because I think the sports films tend to be... The sport in these films tends to be a foil for the character pieces. So I would try... For me, I think I always try and separate the sport, whether I know much about it or not, from the rest of the film. It's almost like the super MacGuffin of the film, isn't it?
But also, I think you do need to have kind of... Because when you talked about the ending, then they don't win at the end. Because I know so little about the sport, I couldn't actually work out until obviously the other team came on cheering that they lost.
Me too.
So I was like sitting there going, "What, did they win or did they lose?" Oh, they lost. Okay, but I didn't really get how and why, or how they'd gone from being so far behind to being that close in front. And then we had Moneyball on recently, which again is not really about baseball at all, but also not really understanding how that scored and how things like that, it kind of makes it harder for you to follow the film and get along with it, because you're like having to go, well, I don't really... Are they winning? Am I cheering? Are they winning? Oh, they're not winning. But I thought they were winning a minute ago.
I think, the baseball's the hardest to follow for me, because it's not just simply like the person with the highest score. It's like there's the innings thing, like with cricket.
It's hit well and run around.
Yeah. So you're not sure, like, okay, is that a good thing that they're on first base, or is it? I don't know.
The kind of tactical moves they do, I'm like, what? Why?
Why is that important? But at least
rubbing their noses and things.
With ice hockey, basketball, and American football, is like just generally whoever's got the highest points at the point is winning. But then they got the things like the downs and the periods, and then the periods in like ice hockey and the quarters in that all makes it confusing. Then you got the timeout, and it's like, why is that important? It's like, ultimately, it kind of does matter, but it doesn't. And I think my favourite sports film, quote unquote, is probably A League of Their Own.
That's
my favourite.
Sorry?
Yeah,
That's baseball.
I know, that's what I mean. But I know nothing about baseball.
Okay.
I know that someone throws it, someone hits it, there's some catching. But that's literally, it's like there's a foil. It's female baseball, great. World War setting, great. But it's
Amazing
not about the baseball. Actually, it's about Gina Davis and
Laurie Petty
and her
Madonna.
sister.
Yeah, I was going to say Madonna's in it,
Tom
right?
Hanks.
It's all about that.
Rosie O'Donnell.
All that kind of
Rosie
action
O'Donnell.
with all that kind of character action, isn't it? Rather than just the sport in itself. But yeah, so I'm saying don't write off sports films because they're sports films.
I was going to say something about the true story element. I think because this TV series, the film is a true story and the TV series is not, the actual true story is, I think with the book, it was more about kind of the fans because the book wasn't received that well. And then they kind of had to jazz it up a little bit. So the whole thing with Boobie Miles?
Yeah.
Boobie, what a name. He didn't actually have the accident on the game. He actually had the accident in a training session. He just kind of like tripped on some training thing. So the fact that they've kind of had to bring in slightly more cinematic elements into the story is kind of probably why it jars a little bit with they're trying to kind of sell it as a little bit more fantastical than it actually was. And that's where it kind of doesn't really fit properly for me.
But isn't that true for every based on a true story?
Yeah, it's true.
You referenced Cool Runnings before, and that's complete. That at the end, you know,
Yeah.
The
there's
ending
lots of
is
stuff is
nothing
like
like that.
them getting to Jamaica is completely kind of fabricated. So I kind of see that, but it's you have to, I think to make stuff more interesting for the screen, you have to do the jazz up.
Yeah.
But then it kind of, I don't know, with Cool Runnings, obviously there's so many things about that did not happen that way.
Yeah.
But the kind of the story there is the message about it, isn't it? Whereas with this, the kind of like altering sort of the little things then makes you question what else is real. And then it becomes less like, well, are we kind of watching a based on true events film, or are we just kind of watching now a film?
Well, what do you think about you talked about it being a character study? Was it you or Matt that said it, the book being based about the characters? About the fans more than the...
Yeah, so it was more about kind of their obsession, and I don't think they were particularly keen on how they were portrayed in the book.
Oh, in the book?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
so in the film they were much
happy with
happier
how they were
about it.
portrayed.
Yeah, but in the book I think it probably showed a lot more of this, because we kind of see them sort of speaking to the players and asking for their photo to be taken, but probably what they got a lot more was, you know, being out on the streets and being accosted with like, why didn't you do well in the game, and how come you're still playing, and you know you're letting us down. So I imagine there was a lot more of that kind of behaviour that was reported in the book and probably going on.
It is just so, because I played rugby all the way through school and then stopped at university when I realised they were knobheads. So we would have maybe 20 people watching at the sidelines. A few of our friends' parents would come week in, week out and watch the game, and they would maybe tell us off for like dropping a pass or something like that, or dropping a ball. But I would never feel like I'd be walking down the street and someone would stop me and say, "Dude, what's going on with this season? You guys should be like winning." I would never have felt that fear or concern. But these guys,
No one's
high
taking
school
the ball
kids,
to your hands.
yeah,
Drop the ball now.
yeah, that was dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really dark.
With the dad, yeah.
Yeah. So I just find it a whole different. That's what I think my favourite part of this is, kind of leaning into the pressure that these guys are feeling from a community that always feels that they've got nothing, literally nothing else to live for.
Yeah. Like there's teams they pride and
so
enjoy,
sad.
but they're not, they're not messing about when it comes time to tell them how they think. You know?
These are 16, 17-year-old kids.
Yeah. It could have gone a little bit deeper in that, and had it maybe taken that sort of perspective, it might have been slightly more interesting. So it kind of touches on all of the things. So it touches on kind of like the individual struggles, it touches on kind of the team and leadership, coaching, a little bit on the fanaticism, but it doesn't quite do all of them justice.
So how would you have made it more appealing to yourself?
I don't know.
It sounds like maybe strip back one or two of the characters.
Possibly, yeah, because it felt like there was really only kind of three main ones, possibly. But even
Boobie was a big character, but he didn't actually do that much ultimately.
He kind of, once he has his injury, he kind of like slips off a little bit, and he's sort of in the background. And then we have the guy with the mother, and then
That's Garrett Hedlund, no?
Yes.
And
young Garrett Hedlund.
and the guy with the dad.
Yeah. And also he had the guy that replaced Boobie, who was like rubbish at the start and was like off and on, and then he had Preacher.
But the thing is,
I don't really know what Preacher's role was in the story.
So they had him, and basically he was the runner. So why didn't they keep throwing it to him and making him run? I didn't get why.
Because he's still not that good.
Okay.
Not nowhere near as good as Boobie.
Okay.
So
what about the guy that ended up in college? That's Chris Cooper? No, what's his name?
Yeah, Chris Kemmer. Yeah, that was the kid who was rubbish and was forgetting his helmet. And then he became really good.
You mean
the tall guy?
No, that's a black guy that was always on the side as well, and then he became really good, and he ended up in college.
Yeah, he's the one who it says at the end. he led them to victory the next season.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the one who forgot his helmet.
No, he was. No, he.
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
so,
it was. Yeah,
that's
so
the one that
the one that forgot his helmet was a junior, so he had another year of college. The one you're thinking about,
The taller guy.
The taller guy. He didn't.
I remember now.
Preacher, they called
I
him.
did Preacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he didn't actually do that much on the pitch. He had a bit in the last.
Yeah, I didn't know
in the
what
last
his
game.
role on the team was.
And
But
then
then I don't know any roles on teams apart from quarterback and I don't know.
Me
And then
too,
you had-
you know, quarterback.
and then
guy
you
who
had-
throws, the guy who runs.
And it had Cruz, who was the intelligent guy who didn't need to play football to go to Harvard. So that guy Cruz was the one. He was the shortest of them all, but seems to be the biggest hitter. So he was the one that could like knock everyone down, which is dumb. But I don't know about Preach. I don't know what his role was in the film and in the actual game. So that I think he's probably someone who could have been like removed from the story to make
I think
it.
he's
a bit
kind
more
of
streamlined.
representing, because I think that they talk about him being religious, don't they? I think so. I think he's kind of like just the stoic, quiet type who then by the end is the one giving this massive speech. Like he's into it more than anyone, like, or maybe not into the game, but he can see that he's on the cusp of rousing, his teammates who he does actually care about a lot, even though you wouldn't have known up until then because he's that kind of background guy.
Should we head to the scores, guys?
Let's head over to the scores.
Hello, I'm Sam Pay.
And I'm Martin Zotz-Orstwick.
And together we host a show called
Song by Song,
where we deal with the music of Tom Waits. We've been going since 2015. Every week we talk about a new track. We've made our way through 15 seasons so far of his music.
And now we're going back to the early years. And if you haven't listened to Tom Waits before, it's not the growly stuff. It's not the stuff where he's hitting an automobile with a bone for percussion. It's a nice, easy way into his music.
If that sounds like something you would be interested in, you should check out our website, songbysongpodcast.com, or put Song by Song into your podcatcher of choice.
Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Welcome to the Flixwatcher spreadsheet of dreams. All of our scores are out of 5. You may have decimal places, and we will start, as we always do, with the recommendability. So, Matt, your recommendability, please, out of 5.
And this is decimal points.
You
Yes.
can have them if you wish.
I'm going to say it's like a 4 for me. So I'll go 4.1. So slightly higher, because I think you can take a lot from this. It all depends on your not love of sports or even American football, like, because for me, like, I was never into it at all and it still got to me. So I think it might be 50-50 on whether it's going to connect with you or not. I think there's enough in there that it can speak to a lot of people. So I think it's highly recommended, but I totally understand if it doesn't land with everyone.
Amelie.
Well, so I didn't think of decimals. I was just thinking of, stars or something.
You can add or remove as you feel now.
Okay, so I mean, in terms of recommendability, it just depends. If I talk to someone that is a fan of sports and especially of American football,
Yeah.
I would say maybe 3, but otherwise I would give it 2 out of 5. I would just recommend it to people that are interested in that kind of sports, because I don't even think that's, even as a American football film, is the best. Or even just, let alone that it's about American football. It would be about baseball or about anything. As you said, I don't think that the characters are fleshed out enough and the drama is original enough for me to say, yeah, actually check this film out. But I do think that the series would be more interesting, because I think it digs more in depth into the psyche of all the different characters. So I would say 2 out of 5.
Helen.
I'm going to go just a little bit higher, so I'm going to go for 3. There are going to be some people like you, Matt, who really, really dig this film, and wherever they are, you're out there. But I think it would be hard for me to kind of sell this particularly well to anyone. It's definite for kind of sports fans, and I guess if you've ever watched the series and you've never seen the film, then it would kind of serve as a nice companion piece. I mean, it's not terrible. I didn't. It wasn't a horrible time that I had watching this. So it just didn't really kind of flesh out that well. So 3.
I don't know why I hadn't watched it before. I think as much as I wouldn't not watch a film for a sports film, I think there is a roadblock there to kind of say, oh, it's a sports film. But I did think there was more to it than that, and I do feel that some of the characters could have been given more weight. And as we've just gone through the kind of list of people there, it was hard to know who was on, for you guys certainly, who was on the pitch and what they were doing versus who they were off pitch, and then who they were friends with. Even that kind of storyline with the mother, I thought that was kind of played short shrift,
and
wasn't it?
I had forgotten about it.
So the main kind of storyline of interest that followed all the way through was the guy with the abusive father. And that was probably the most interesting story in terms of him, the father, trying to kind of say, hey, kid, this is the best you're going to have, and this is what I want for you. So at least I have this little bit of glory
And
that I
him
can hold on
giving him
to.
his ring at the end,
Yeah.
and say like, "You won in my eyes." Like it's cheesy stuff, but it really gets me.
I loved also like the little touches of you saw the other ones with the other people in the town that had the rings as well.
Yeah.
It's like literally the best thing they'll ever do in their lives can happen between the ages of 15 and 18.
Yeah, it's almost like a weird Village of the Damned thing.
Yeah.
Where every now and then you notice a ring on somebody else,
Yeah.
and it's like,
It's like
you're all still here.
Like the sheriff had it. A police officer, an officer had it as he was driving. You just saw it kind of flashed up, and the coach looked at it. And it's like, okay, you're one of these guys.
That's what they were looking at.
Yeah, they're just looking at these big, ugly-looking rings. And if you're going to watch, as we're recording, it comes out tomorrow. Uncut Gems. These kind of rings play a big part of that. So look out for these kind of things. So I'm going to give it a 4 because I think it's better than I thought it was going to be. And the fact that it took me a while to watch it myself is indicative of the fact that other people would be reluctant to watch it, because I still haven't seen Any Given Sunday.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like,
Yeah,
I know as soon as I put that on, I will enjoy it, but it's still like, oh, do I want to watch that? Nah. Maybe not. But if someone comes on Flixwatcher and chooses Any Given Sunday, I'll happily watch it. But I just don't feel.
It's not on there yet, but
Have you checked?
maybe it's not on there.
How do you know? Have you
Because
checked?
it would definitely come up as a it would now push
Yeah.
this into my face. So maybe you should use their selection box, their
I will do, yeah.
suggestion box, and put it in.
Netflix
I'll tell
selection
you
box.
what is on there that I watched after this week, actually, sort of in prep for this, is Rudy, the 1993 film with Sean Astin, which is another kind of true story. And this does lean into a lot of the cheesy feel-good tropes. But it's about this guy who, in the late 60s, all he ever wanted to do was be part of this college football team
Right.
At Notre Dame College in...
And that's a big sports college.
Yeah. And so, but he wasn't that smart and stuff. So, but he decides to just go, and he goes to the town where it's at, and he gets into the nearby sort of community college, and the father there is saying, if you get your grades up, you might be able to get into the uni. And he gets a little job working like maintenance in the stadium, and he just has this huge love and respect for the game and for the team. And he finally kind of, worms his way into the uni and worms his way onto the team. And he's very much just a bench guy. He's like a small guy. He's not even very good. But it's kind of this whole story of like, if everyone has the spirit of Rudy, then we'll win, kind of thing. And it's him just trying to play one game to please his dad. And it's quite touching, but it was very Hallmark movie for me. But that's on Netflix.
Oh, okay. So now we go to repeat viewing score. Matthew. I don't know why I keep it going Matthew.
I'll take it.
How many times have you watched this?
I think this is 3 or 4.
Okay.
So it would have been when I first saw it, which was a while ago. It wasn't when it came out, but not long after. And then I would have seen it a couple times around the time I was watching the show. And then it's been a few years now before this one. But for me, I can put this on any time, just because I really just love the kind of the vibe and the tone of the whole thing. Very much coupled with the score and the shooting style and the characters. For me, it's a very like, sort of homely film for me. So for me, I'd watch it any day of the week. So for me, I'd say 4.5 to counteract what's probably coming.
Defensive scoring. Not seen this for a while. Okay, Amelie.
Well, it's not as if, I was the main character in A Clockwork Orange and I was forced, it was not torture. But I wouldn't watch it again. I've seen it once, it's fine. I was so...
Not taking anything else from it.
No.
Okay.
So I would say 1.
Helen.
Yeah, the same. I'm not going to watch it again, but I'm glad I've watched it. So we've had films on here before that I've been like, I really didn't enjoy that, and 2 hours I won't get back. But this was worth watching, but I'm not going to watch it again. So 1.
I'm going to go for 2. watch it further down the line. And if something like Any Given Sunday does come on Netflix, then I might say, and I had the time afterwards, I might put this on. But also I want to look at I want to compare this to other American football-specific films. I remember one called Necessary Roughness, which had Scott Bakula.
Oh, wow.
At the peak of his Quantum Leap fame. So I remember going to see that.
Captain.
Yeah, I went to see that when that came out in the cinema because I was just like, Quantum Leap was like the best TV show in the world at the time. Varsity Blues.
Remember the Titans? Is it?
No, I don't remember. I've not seen that.
There's
No,
one.
I don't remember the
I've
Titans.
not seen Remember the Titans, Any Given Sunday, Varsity Blues.
What about
So
what
you've
is
not
it called? Coach Carter? Is it
Coach Carter? I haven't seen.
Is it about
that
American
basketball?
football as
Friday
well?
Night Lights and Rudy,
Okay,
the only two
whatever.
American football films.
Space Jam.
That's basketball.
That's basketball. Yeah. No, but I can't remember if it's baseball or American football. But yeah, the Coach Carter, Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
You know, so all of those. Yeah, I've seen a lot actually, but I don't really enjoy. Yeah.
Have you seen Moneyball?
No, because that's the same. I'm not really interested in baseball, so no.
Do you like Aaron Sorkin films?
I do like The Social Network and Jobs. So, for example,
So think of it as a Steve Jobs,
maybe I
as
should
a
think of
Aaron
that,
Sorkin
yeah.
films rather than.
But I do. You know, I'm not a big fan of boxing, but I do really enjoy boxing films. So Southpaw, I've really loved.
Mm-hmm.
I love Girl Fight with Michelle Rodriguez.
$1 Million Baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it suffered a bit that I had seen Mar Adentro before, which is the sea inside with Javier Bardem, and he has kind of the same fate in the film. So I saw that one first.
Is that
And
a boxing film with him?
No, it's a true story, and it was a guy that dived into the sea, but the water was very shallow, and he
yeah,
got
I've seen that.
paraplegic, or I don't know how you say it, but he wants to have the name.
Well, hey, let's not spoil other films.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah,
So
I mean, it's a true story. So, but yeah, but it kind of has the same kind of fate, and I preferred that one to $1 Million Baby. But I think it's a fantastic performance by Hilary Swank as well. So
I'm going to say, I'm going to go for 2. I'd watch it again. I would watch it again, but not sure when. And I'd watch it happily, but just don't think I'd watch it often. Small screen score. Matt, have you seen this on the big screen?
No, I mean, I'd really love to actually. If somewhere was to put it on, it'd be really interesting. So yeah, I have only ever seen this on the small screen, and I think it is suited to it, thanks to the rough and ready docu style. It can feel, depending on how you see it, as like a documentary or as like The Office. There's a lot of kind of crash zooms and very, very quick editing in there. So I think it is suited to it. But there's some beautiful cinematography anyway from like a lot of the still shots of Texas itself and of the stadium and the lights, and it's those kind of parts that really amp up the feel of the texture of the whole film. So I think it is a good mix of really cinematic and small screen vibes. So yeah, I'll say 4, straight 4.
yeah, I would give 4 as well, because I don't think it suffers from being, it does transfer very well on the small screen.
Yeah.
I did like, as I said, the documentary feel of it. And yeah, I don't think it's the type of film like 1917 or Dunkirk or that you need to see on the big screen.
Dunkirk's now on Netflix. And I'm
Yes,
like,
it is on Netflix.
No, I'm not going to watch that.
Yeah, no need to watch it on the small screen.
Yeah.
Unless someone chooses it for Flixwatcher. Helen.
So I've just come to this conclusion, having thought about the sports films that I have enjoyed, and I think 100% you have to watch them in the cinema.
Really?
Yeah.
So what were the ones you have enjoyed the most? Have you seen Raging Bull in the cinema?
I haven't, no, but I know that I would enjoy that
Sure.
more than having watched it. But yeah, Cool Runnings, The Fighter, The Wrestler, even ones
Is
like...
there actually much fighting in The Fighter?
There's a fair bit of fighting in it, a little bit.
Is this for the sort of communal spirit you get in a room with other people
I think
watching
so.
sport films?
And things like, I've seen like Foxcatcher at the cinema, and I think it's more that when you're watching the sporting moments in it, because you're watching in a collective audience, the kind of feeling is that you're there in the crowd,
Yeah.
Sure.
with a crowd watching it. And because there is kind of like the triumphant moment at the end, that you do occasionally get like, I think,
The sports cheer.
yeah, and I kind of almost wanted to, like, at the end of The Fighter, like, jump up and go, yeah.
Absolutely.
sort of thing.
2006, Rocky Balboa was one of the greatest cinema experiences of my life. It's just, a whole cinema full of like-minded people chanting Rocky. Like,
Really?
that final fight was just, we were a part of the film.
What's your small screen score, Helen?
So I'm going to give it a 3, because I think now, all sports films you have to watch in the cinema to enjoy it.
It's been decreed, guys. Helen from Flixwatcher podcast has said.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of ones that I've watched just kind of at home, and we had Creed on quite early.
Raging Bull, you haven't watched it in the cinema?
No, but we haven't had that on here.
Okay, sure.
So we had Creed on, and I was not very favourable towards that. But maybe had I seen it in the cinema, I might have had a little bit more.
Eddie the Eagle.
Sadly, I missed that, but I know quite a few people who do rate that film,
fun.
and
It's
they
on
quite
Netflix.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's
So,
very fun.
has anyone seen a documentary called Next Goal Wins?
No. I've
So-
seen Hoop Dreams, the really good basketball doc.
I've
not
seen
Next Goal
I've
Wins.
seen The Edge, the cricket film. Which is
So,
very good.
Next Goal Wins is going to be dramatized. Well, it's been shot in the can by Taika Waititi, making a dramatization of the real story. And I urge you, if you can see it, to watch it in the cinema, as Helen said. And that was, like you say, it was like one of the best cinematic experiences in my life. Like watching sports happen and like everyone like cheering at certain points whilst you're watching the games play.
Yeah.
Telling the story of like the quote unquote worst international football team in the world. And watching them try and get better was really, really good watching it in the cinema. But I really enjoyed watching this at home. So I don't think I lost out on that. But I think I can see what you're saying, Helen. There is a bit of like, and you get and the book gets pumping and stuff like that. But I don't think this one was that good, because I think for me it was more the characters. Although some of the shots in the game were really hard hitting. I was like, are they using real footage of people actually landing on their heads? Because football is
There's a bit with the
bleak.
finger.
There's a broken finger.
When he
That
gets
could've-
the helmet kicked in his face.
yeah.
and
Yeah, playing
blood
dirty,
squirting.
Ricardas.
Yeah, they were funny.
Just
But the-
giant.
Yeah.
But because I mean, I don't know how much you know about American football at the moment, but there's a big thing about concussion.
Right.
And people like, the average lifespan of an American football player is like 3 years, because they just get basically fucked up.
Oh, playing the
NFL,
game
yeah.
for 3 years.
Yeah, it's playing the game for 3 years. It's in the
And
NFL.
then the pressure on their knees as well.
Well, no, the main thing's a concussion, because they just like literally
Because of the helmets, they can just go full.
Yeah, because they just go full tilt and they feel they're invincible. And then like 3 or 4 years down the line, they got early onset Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and stuff like that.
Wow.
What was
They
that
take
Will
it-
Smith film? That was
Concussion. So it's based
Oh,
on that,
concussion,
yeah.
yeah.
So you see these guys going in. So that's a really, really big thing in NFL at the moment, is like, how do we try and make it safer and make it less interesting? So I do like this. But in this film, it didn't seem to hold back in any way, shape or form, because of people landing on their heads, and that looked properly horrible. Things like the broken finger, you can see how that's kind of
I
special
wonder if
effects.
they just kind of filmed a game. From
Yeah,
like
that's what I
a
was
million
thinking.
different vantage
Yeah.
points, because it feels like you're there. And then coupled with a few really nice shots where it's kind of like the ball's flicking through the air and there's these dynamic zooms out and stuff. And I think the choice moments of slow mo in this is really cool as well.
So I would like to, if anyone knows how this was filmed, please let us know. We should have done some research.
Well, I know for the series, I mean, it might be the same for the film, is that they do a thing where they don't block a scene like you would traditionally. They just kind of let the actors do what they want and go around, and the cameramen are instructed to kind of move to what they do and follow them around. So it keeps it very loose, and I think it opens up the acting style for a lot of the more... I mean, this is just kind of, one-on-one dialogue scenes.
But what about the in-game footage?
The games? Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I can't imagine they're going for a take and cutting and going back to ones or anything. They must just kind of run through a whole bunch and get what they can and then pick out specific moments.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
So how does it compare to... Sorry, I'm going to go for 4.5. So we have like a semi-phenomenon of films turning into TV series. Bob Thornton's in this, and one good example of that now is like the Fargo TV series.
Yes, absolutely.
Which I think is absolutely brilliant. Brilliant. Is this a good idea then? You like expanding the storyline for some of these films?
Yeah, well, there's like this concept of a small town has a football team kind of naturally lends itself to a series that you can play it out, because especially a network show that starts at kind of September, that's school year, so you can play it out almost in real time throughout the year. And so for this kind of story, I think it really works. In terms of like films to TV that I think's really worked, definitely Fargo as well. Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Right.
I don't know if you've seen that. Like I
haven't
really
seen
enjoy it. It captures the kind of the exact zany tone of the films perfectly. and kind of one-ups them through a lot. And you've got Bruce Campbell back, and Sam Raimi's around as director on a few and exec producer. Buffy, of course, is the
that's probably the biggest
not many
example,
people watched the original, I guess.
And then a small one for me is The Mask, the 1994 Jim Carrey film, had an animated series. As did a lot of things.
Yeah, you had the real Ghostbusters and like even
the
Police
Mummy.
Academy.
Yeah,
had a team.
Godzilla. But the Mask animated series, I really remember loving. I had like a whole bunch taped off the TV on like about 10 cassettes, and because that's just very zany and Looney Tunesy, and that captured the spirit really well.
Okay, engagement score, Matthew.
What is
That's
this?
Matthew again.
Is this how engaged you were during?
Yeah, during watching it, were you playing on your phone? Because if you were, then that's lower engagement.
Yeah, no. This is very high for me. I'd say I'll go 4.5. Just because, I was very into everything going on, and the games are so compellingly shot and cut together. I think the editing in this is a real masterstroke. Like the amount it kind of conveys, it kind of has a very montagey feel for a lot of the genuine scenes, but it just feels like you're just picking out choice moments, even if it's just a half-second shot of people, so you can get what you need to know about certain characterizations or certain plot developments. I think it's just put together really, really well. So for me, it had me in its grip.
Amelie.
For me, not really. No, I was not looking at my phone, but a little bit, I guess. It was, as I said, it was not a torture. I watched for our podcast. I watched so many films where I'm like, this is a torture. I can't take it anymore. How long is this? Every 2 minutes I will look at my watch. It wasn't that, but I would give it a 1, I guess.
Oh shit! So even despite the worst of erotic thrillers,
1 or 1.5.
I mean, you could have whichever. I'm not trying to force your hand.
Yeah.
Which one do you want, 1 or 1.5?
Let's say 1.5.
Okay.
To be generous.
Helen.
I'm going to give it a 3. It's pushing 2 hours, but it does kind of. It's got a long time to tell, hasn't it? It's got a long sort of time to kind of cover in that, and I think it generally sort of does. The pacing's reasonably okay, but I did do quite a bit of looking into sort of the differences and similarities into the book and everything. So I wasn't 100% engaged in it, and also I kind of got into a little bit of a kind of Billy Bob Thornton, man. He's just had kind of a very up and down career.
But I mean, the thing with Fargo is one of the reasons he's just redeemed himself. I don't know what really he's done, but in Fargo, he's awesome.
That's kind of his comeback, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the series, you mean?
So
or?
what had Billy Bob Thornton? Yeah, in the series.
In the series, I haven't seen that one.
So what was Billy Bob Thornton up to? I know he had like a blood vial around his neck for a bit. With,
so I mean, I think around this time of films that he'd already done Sling Blade, is that correct? And he was kind of around pushing tin.
I think 2004 would have been this and Bad Santa in the same year.
Oh, okay. Bad Santa was like outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm hard pressed to actually recall before and after that what he's been up to.
Yeah, and I mean
until Fargo.
He kind of does play weirdos quite well, doesn't he? I think is so. I mean, in this, I don't know whether I didn't think he was quite the right choice for it. I don't know. I just spent a lot of time looking at him going,
oh, hold on. The film with Halle Berry.
Monsters
Ball, yeah.
And the man who wasn't there, Cohen.
Yeah.
Because he was very understated for a coach. I guess maybe he knew how to handle all of the townspeople. Because at one point he's just in his office, isn't he? And they all kind of pile in, telling him how to play the game. And he just lets them speak rather than trying to say, no, this is my team, I'll do it myself. So he probably knows just to let them do their thing, because otherwise, these guys have guns.
yeah, they do.
So engagement score
3.
I'm going to go for 4.2 here. I really enjoyed it. I was engaged all the way through, and I didn't know it was a true story. I think if I hadn't known it was a true story, I probably would have been more like, oh, and then if it did happen. But I think it's worthwhile. I think once you start it goes quite quickly, and things like Boobie's accident happens very quickly in there, so it does kind of like hook you in. But as soon as he said ACL tear, I was like, you're not coming back, mate. Unless you're really, really stupid, then that's not good for you. So that gives us a score of 3.1 for 375. Right, let's go to Twitter. Please do follow us, guys. On Twitter, we are at FlixWatcherPod, and we always put a little tweet out to call out for reviews before we go into the record. In this case, we said we're reviewing Friday Night Lights with the only Cleo Luna, that's Amelie, and Matt Brothers 2, that's Matt. There's one of the Matt
Brothers, one out there. I hate him.
Damn you all. Asking you to give us a 5-star rating and a short review and retweets, and we had an response. That's
Liam,
yeah, French. From Liam Dempsey. Matt, do you know this guy?
Yeah, he's in my corner. we both share a love for this. So yeah, he was like, I'm gonna get in there and back you up.
So can you read out his
he said,
tweet?
Just stunning. Manages to be cripplingly truthful while also remaining cinematic. Powered by a truly gorgeous score and a great ensemble cast with a towering central performance from Billy Bob. A deeply moving paean to the last vestiges of youth. 5 stars.
Yeah,
It's a very eloquent review.
it is, and I guess they are holding on. They are just holding on to their youth, and that's the best they're ever going to achieve.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, that's super, super sad.
Yeah, and they're also aware of it, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like they're kidding themselves. So yeah, super sad.
Well, I think that the cruise guy, the smart guy, was the most like, meh.
I'm out of here, guys.
Yeah, I'll see you guys later. And another thing, because I do like this whole kind of a history of sport thing, is that if you do go to sports on a scholarship, if you do go to university on a scholarship, you're expected to like do all the sports. So you might finish with a degree, but your degree might tantamount be like nothing. So you might not be able to do anything with it. So there's that argument whereby you might as well just go to university and try and force your way through so you can actually have a better degree. So when you are finished after 3 years, then you'll end up in a better position.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you want to talk to me about the ins and outs of NFL and whether you should do it or not, guys, at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter. Right. Thank you very much, guys. Can you give us a quick sign out and tell people where we can find you online?
Yeah, so you can find me at Matt Brothers 2 and my podcast Spocklight at Spocklight Pod. We've recently, since Liam, my co-host, was on your show a couple of years ago now, we've started a strand called Spocklight at the Movies, which is similar in vein to Flixwatcher, where we focus on one movie per episode with the link of it having a connection to someone in the Star Trek universe. You know, somebody big, not just anyone, either someone who's directed one of the movies or is a lead in one of the shows. So we've had some great guests on there. We've had Nick DeSemlin from Empire Mag, chat Inner Space, and Boyd Hilton from Pilot TV, chat Showtime. So some really odd picks being on, like some personal picks and with quite interesting links. And we've recently done one on Death Wish 3 with Dal and Jeanette from Sun Double Deep, and coming up is Passenger 57 with Wesley Snipes.
Yes.
So maybe out on the streams as this comes out. Yeah,
it's coming out very soon. Yes.
Okay, so I'm at the only Cleo Luna. And if you want to listen to our podcast, you can find us first on Twitter. It's Fatal Attract Pod. Otherwise, you can find us on iTunes and Spotify, Lip-Sync, anywhere, with a good app for podcast.
Yeah. So basically, wherever you listen to this, type in Fatal Attraction.
Yeah, Fatal Attractions with an S.
Okay.
And and that's it. You type it and you'll find it.
Cool. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks so much for
Thank you.
coming on.
Bye.
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 Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty, mighty tunes, and Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Ben, and that's Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell him Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.